Hello and welcome to another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor, Russ Stevens, Uncle Joe McLaughlin, and he's JP's first son, Tim Hoey. Well, we have another great show for you tonight, so boys, let's get it started. We get started with the guy that I think we're pretty familiar with. Tom Brady ends up going to his 10th Super Bowl on Sunday. I don't know if Tom Brady was the best player on the field, but that guy wills things to happen with his play, and just the fact that Tom Brady is on the field, you know you've got a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
He was the best player in the field in the first half, I thought. Second half was a little rough, but the first half he was terrific.
Yeah, he was terrific, and that's all they needed when you had a guy like Shaq Barrett, who just played extraordinary in the defensive side. It seemed like he was in Rodgers' face all game, Joe.
It might even be worse coming up. Eric Fisher is a big loss for Kansas City, and Mahomes with the Turco isn't as mobile, so they could be, they could give KC some trouble. It doesn't, KC looks unbeatable, but I'm not going to sell Tom Brady short. And he's a great field general, like Russ was saying. He drags everyone else along. That Buccaneers team couldn't win nothing last year.
Yeah.
Now the winners.
Yeah, Timmy, a lot of fans spoke to this week thinking that if Tom Brady had been on the Patriots, somehow that we would be in the Super Bowl is absolutely ludicrous.
That is, I won't say he barely got there with all of that talent that he has around him, but we would have seen a replay of last year, if not worse this year. He might have had less. The Patriots might have had less weapons this year. I mean, Walker was out injured for most of the year. Not Walker. I mean,
Edelman,
Edelman.
Both sides of the ball.
We would have seen an angry, bitter Tom Brady sulking around and moping and yelling at people all year with the Patriots this year. That's my opinion.
Yeah, Russ, the Patriots don't go any more than 9-7 with Tom Brady.
They 10-6, and they make the playoffs. They have the same exact year they had last year with Tom Brady, right? Get launched.
Not as good a team. This year was not as good a team.
They get launched in the first round, if they make the playoffs.
But I think what and people's concern, I know, is not that Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl this year. The fact is that if Tom Brady is a quality quarterback the next couple of years, then the mistake seems to be glaring, because had you kept him around and paid him and gone through this year, maybe you could have gotten to another Super Bowl in the next couple of years with Tom.
Well, it wouldn't have been the first time that Belichick misread Brady's longevity, right? Because he based that whole Jimmy Garoppolo draft pick and everything else on the fact that Brady would only be around for another 2 or 3 years. He misread that. He dealt Garoppolo for nowhere near enough. And this would be the second time in 5 years.
Well, we really can't blame Belichick. He's just basing it on the last 1,000 years of how long guys reach their athletic peak. And this freak of nature, Tom Brady, comes along and shatters every myth we ever had about age professional athleticism.
And let's call it the way it is. He hasn't had a single good game in these playoffs.
Well, Brady
hasn't had a good
game. Well, I thought pretty spectacular. I mean, I don't know how many other quarterbacks throw that pass to end the first half in the league that find.
That was just a defensive mistake. I think they all can make that play.
But he put the throw where it had to be.
Well, there's no great team in the NFL.
Things like that.
There's no great team in the NFL, guys, so you don't have to be perfect anymore. Just shows you can turn the ball over 3-4 times in the biggest game of the year and still win.
But Scott, two of his interceptions were the equivalent of a punt, though.
I know, I understand that.
Because they didn't take advantage of them.
Yeah, exactly. That too.
Yeah, but look, Tom Brady did enough to win. The Buccaneers did not even make the playoffs last year with all that talent. And it's all because of Tom Brady that they sit here with a distinct possibility that they will be Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, a lot of intangibles he brings to it, the leadership in the locker room, the expectation of winning. It's a lot more than just throwing the football that Tom Brady brings to the table.
And he's handling a lot of strange characters. Fournette's a weirdo. Antonio Brown and Dominican Sue, Jason Pierre-Paul, they've all been added this year, and they've all got more than a few screws loose.
Yeah,
And he's whipped them into shape. You got to give
Bruce
him
Arians. Yeah, a lot of guys who have their own kinds of agendas. Bruce Arians being one. Mike Evans, the wide receiver. It looks like it's all about him. Russ, is this a team that can win a Super Bowl? Is the Buccaneers a team worthy of being Super Bowl champion?
Well, there's two separate questions. Can they win? Yeah. To Joe's point, Eric Fisher's out. Mahomes, I don't think they're going to win, but they can win. Are they worthy of winning? They would have probably been gotten crushed by 5 out of the last 8 Super Bowl teams.
Yeah, right. I think
right?
so.
I think. I mean, I think they're a good team, but like I don't think they're an amazing team. But it's a weird year. None of this makes any sense this year.
Yeah, it is weird. It's weird in the other sports. Tampa was the best team in hockey. I think we can all agree. The Lakers were the best team. Lakers were the best team in basketball, and the Dodgers were the best team in baseball. So it has worked uniformly to be somewhat normal as far as that goes. If Kansas City wins, then it's all normal for all 4 sports. I think the 4 best teams did end up winning.
That's a good point, But I tell you, when will we learn not to underestimate or not bet against Tom Brady? I mean, how many times have we heard this before going into big games? I mean, all the AFC games against Peyton Manning and the other various big games he's been in. You watch these sports shows on, and Brady didn't have a chance, and he's proved everybody wrong so many times.
Yeah, look, 2018 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Still can't believe we ended up winning that game. Had no right to win it. We won it. All right, we'll do the Super Bowl predictions next week, fellas. We got to go to the Boston Celtics, the 17-time world champion Boston Celtics. And we have to talk about Jaylen Brown. The progression of Jaylen Brown continues. It's looked like, right now, all of a sudden, Jaylen Brown is the best shooter on the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Yeah, he's had a remarkable start, but look, he's going to regress to the mean. Like it's not reasonable. He's shooting way beyond, like there's something historic in terms of his shot percentage from 2-point range. But frankly, even if he does regress, he's to where you would expect. He's having a remarkable year. He's a fantastic basketball player.
He's a drop-dead 3-point shooter right now at this moment.
It's remarkable. He's starting to create his own offense, which has been the legitimate negative tag on him. And all of a sudden, that's a different player that played against the Miami Heat. If we had this player against the Miami Heat, I think we go to a final.
Probably, although he had a good series, Scott. I mean, I think the problem with the Miami Heat series was Hayward was trash. His knee, his foot wasn't right, and Kemba was.
Drop your glove.
So, but maybe, look, here's the thing: to win an NBA championship, you typically speaking need to have a player playing as a top 5 player in the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't think the Celtics are going to have that this year, but they may have 2 players playing as top 10 to 12 players in the NBA.
Yeah.
An interesting experiment to see if they could win it.
Yeah, that's a nice average, though. Kind of,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get to that number that you want almost,
right.
The 5 spot. Yeah, look, Tatum, I think the break, obviously, you never want to get COVID. Looks like he didn't have any great effects from it. But having a guy like Tatum take a couple of weeks off right now, it's going to be awful helpful during the course of the playoffs because they're going to have to lean on their best player. It's
all about these 2 guys. Like it's all coming down, and Kitten, do they have enough additional support? Kemba and Smart and whatever bigs are playing, but they're going to go as far as these 2 guys take them.
Yeah. Jason Tatum's going to have to play like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
It's not going to just have to be a comparison of.
Yeah.
He's going to have to play like that.
Oh, to play with Utah and the Lakers, yeah. They both have to step it up even more.
Okay, we talk about the wings adding a piece. Again, we talk about this being a tryout right now, the Avante Greens, the Shemmys and stuff, do you see any guy right now who has stood out from this season that could play key minutes in the playoffs that we didn't think about starting the opening day?
Other than, I think Pritchard could, but he still would need to develop. But I mean, look, Shemmy's a nice story. Javante Green's a nice story. There's some, guys are nice stories. They're not playoff basketball players.
Yeah.
I think Rob Williams is starting to show a little more than I never thought I was going to see out of him. There might be some nice upside with him.
Yeah, great point. But Grant Williams looks like he's getting back to the end of the bench right now.
Tough start. He had a few good games. He started badly, and then he played well a few games, and he doesn't look like he has any confidence right now. And I thought he was going to be a key player, which just dials up the pressure on Danny to bring in a guy who can play a three or the 3 or 4.
When is the trade deadline this year?
March 21st.
What's that?
Thank you for asking that. Yeah, I looked that up this morning. I've been rooting so hard for Aaron Nesmith, and he's played well the last few games.
Yeah.
I think this is a guy that, because they didn't have summer league, they didn't have a training camp, that, he's very much behind. But everything I see about him shows that he's going to be a quality NBA player.
Well, what do we talk about a lot? We talk about, you are what your baseball card says you are. So his baseball card says he's a dead-eye three-point shooter, and he's going to hit those numbers that his card says that he is. So give him a little time. I hope he gets there.
Yeah.
His baseball card also says he's a young guy that's having a lot of trouble assimilating his NBA.
Yeah, he's lost. Yeah.
See what he can do.
He's lost defensively, but they all are. One thing you can't learn, and what he has, he's a hustler. The guy gives an effort. He tries to rebound. You can see he's trying to learn on the court. And Timmy's right. The guys, they don't move the baskets in the NBA. They stay still during it. He's going to be, I think, a huge contributor. Maybe not this year, but definitely moving forward.
Yeah, I give him 2 years till he's a real threat. Like a real threat. Like a legitimate,
So, Scotty, let me ask you a question. Have you figured out which coach you want to replace Brad Stevens? Because that's what you were claiming.
Thank you for bringing that up, Russell. Thank you.
Look. You think Brad Stevens has improved as a coach in the last 3 years?
In the last 3 years? Sure. I think he's improved as a coach, but he's made conference championships throughout the last 4 years.
No, I know. But look, I obviously we're not firing Brad Stevens right now because we haven't found Jason Veritek's not available. But no, the jury's out on Brad Stevens right now. I don't think it's a fait accompli that he's the coach of the Celtics for life.
By the way, I don't disagree with you, but on any given, like if he makes a bad rotation decision one night, I'm not calling for his beheading like some people on this show.
No,
So,
but
Scotty, wait, do you think he has to get meaner, tougher? Like, I mean, does he have to become a meaner person? Like, that's kind of the feeling I get.
Russ Stevens has talked about for many years, Timmy and Joe, about the plays coming out of timeouts and stuff that Brad Stevens had done a wonderful job. I will give it to. We have not seen that for a long time. That seems to be a skill set that has left Brad Stevens. He hasn't designed the plays that we go, whoa, he's made an impact on this game. Would you agree?
Yeah, but he's not the new face in town anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone has studied his game and what his tendencies, and so they're a little bit better prepared for him.
Gentlemen, I apologize, but I have to sign off here. Okay.
All right.
I think Joe is right, Scotty, in that I think maybe the league's caught up to him a little bit. Maybe he's just not, with the stuff that he ran before. He's run out of his, he's like one of those offensive coordinators who has a bunch of scripted plays, and then by the end of the first quarter, he's out of them. Guys, I agree. They haven't been as creative or as effective recently.
Right, and we know that's how a lot of games are won or lost by those plays.
Yeah, but I don't think there's ever been a coach in the history of the NBA fired because of his after timeout plays.
I know, but look, we got to see if
Danny Ainge gets up there and says we're firing Brad Stevens because his ATO plays aren't up to snuff.
That would be very
I'm more
interesting.
inclined to fire Danny. I've got more bones to pick with Danny than with Brad.
Well, I tell you something, Danny. Yeah, for the draft he had in 2019, which was now that Grant Williams is on the end of the bench with Carson Edwards, is horrendous. Will go down as one of the worst drafts when you look at the players
That's a tough one to
that
defend
he
right now.
could have
That's
drafted. Or he did draft in Tybalt. Can you imagine having Tybalt on this team right now?
Yeah, I look, Tybalt's a hell of a defensive player, but I got to tell you, that guy can't shoot. That guy's a worse shooter than Ben Simmons. He can't, like, Tybalt can't hit a wide open corner three. It's a disaster.
I know, but a guy is long.
He's an incredible defender, but like, I'm sorry. I got some friends in Philly who literally hide their eyes every time that guy pulls.
Yeah, right. Look out for the women in show.
No, he does. He looks like he makes like Shemi Ojale look like Pistol Pete Maravich.
It's true. It's true. All right, we have to go to Daniel Tice, and to be honest with you, I think he's maybe the most underrated player in basketball right now. This kid continues to develop. We have to re-sign him because the way this kid develops, I don't even know what his upside is, but he's become a legitimate top 10 center in the NBA.
He's going to get a Kelly Olynyk contract, and I don't think the Celtics are going to want to match that.
I totally agree with you, Scott, and I kind of agree with Joe that he could end up getting an offer for $10 million a year, and which would put the Celtics in a spot. You know, I kind of went into this year thinking Tice could be a guy who could get dealt at this deadline, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think, you know, by the way, if Tice keeps playing well and Williams improves, I could see them sending Tristan Thompson out at the deadline.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't think it would affect as far as the ability to acquire players if they sign Tice. Is that right, Russell?
Yeah. I mean, these centers, even decent centers, are not getting big contracts. You know, you're looking at the top of the market is now $10 or $11 million a year. That would give the Celtics pause. But you know, would they sign if Tice keeps playing this way and Thompson keeps playing this way? Would they sign Tice and deal Thompson at the end of the year? I think they would.
Okay, who's a better player, Kelly Olynyk, who makes $15 million a year, or Daniel Tice?
Oh,
Nice.
I would take Tice 7 days a week and twice on Sundays.
That's what I'm saying. That all of a sudden,
Yeah, but that Olynyk would never get paid that now. That he got paid that 3 years ago.
okay. Look, I want to keep Tice because I like to have good players on the team, and you know it'll be very difficult to replace them. Look, as far as firing Danny, he picked up Tice for nothing, and he's definitely equivalent to a top 10 first round draft pick on that year.
I've just been frustrated with Danny that he just doesn't make that move to get him over the top, either in the offseason, but definitely the trade deadlines. The last big trade he made at the deadline was when he shipped Perk out and ruined that team.
Well, they did get Isaiah Thomas, but your point is true. And Joe, if they don't use this trade exception, or at least part of it at the deadline, I'm gonna hurl myself off my roof. I really am. Like, there's no reason not to do that this year.
Yeah, I'm hearing some rumors. Thaddeus Young.
He looked good the other night.
I thought he'd be a nice pickup.
He's a tough-minded player. You put Thaddeus Young and Marcus Smart on the court at the same time, there's not going to be a lot of BS going on. I tell you that.
Yeah, but at the very least, we should have been acquiring guys like him the last couple of years at the deadline. You know, the PJ Browns, and Danny hasn't done it.
Yeah, I mean, it's my biggest complaint about Danny. It's really my only complaint. I think these, you know, could he have traded these draft picks, you know, these slots like the Sacramento slot and the Memphis slot? Yeah, but we also got really bad luck that they both ended up being the 14th pick, you know? It's tough to blame them too hard on the draft side. I blame them a lot for not doing anything at these last several trade deadlines.
Yeah, well, let's see what Romeo Langford. I mean, I think Romeo Langford's a N'Keal Harry like bust, but we'll see what happens. Brad Stevens, Russell's buddy, said that Kemba's not going to play back-to-back games the whole season. This doesn't bode well for what this guy's knee is
I
up
got
to.
people texting me today about this. I totally disagree. That is exactly what I want the Celtics to do and say, which is there's no reason to play him back to back during the regular season. The regular season, whether you're the 6th seed or the 5th seed or the 4th seed or the 3rd seed, doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, and we saw this last year in the playoffs, is having that guy healthy in the playoffs. That's the only thing that matters.
And who's going to play the point? Pritchard's out now for a time, and Teague has been terrible.
Yeah, Pritchard will be back in a week, Joe. Like, it's fine. I'm the guy who predicted that after 25 games, they'd be lucky to be 13-12.
Yeah.
Right? So anything more than that, I'm fine with at this point in time.
They had Tatum out. Look, Boston sports fans react too quickly. Jeff Teague is a great player, has been a great player.
He's fine.
He's absolutely going to be fine. He played well early this season. Jeff Teague's going to contribute greatly to this team. By the end, he's going to be one of our favorite players going into the playoffs. You watch. Don't give up on Jeff Teague. All right, we got to go to the Boston. Got to go to the Boston Red Sox, who actually made some moves, getting Adam Ottavino from the Yankees. This kid's a Northeastern guy, even though he's 34 years old. Great move to get a prospect and to pick up probably their best reliever for the 2021 season.
I like the move. I mean, look, we've all been complaining that the Red Sox have turned themselves into some mid-market team. And this is the Red Sox flexing their financial muscle, bringing in salary, getting a prospect for taking on a really good pitcher with a high salary.
Frank German, a guy throws 98 miles an hour, was a 4th-round pick a few years ago.
Right.
Yeah. However, unfortunately, it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. That's the only issue.
I probably, but look, this team's not going to be as bad as it was last year. If a couple of things come together, remember, if Erod can pitch well, if Eovaldi can pitch well, Chris Sale can come back. A lot of teams make the playoffs. Right. There's a chance the Red Sox could make the playoffs.
Yeah, with this fakakta stuff going on, I think that it's the egg has been scrambled so much in professional sports with no home field or home court advantage. You take a look at the NBA standings, everyone's bunched up, right?
Yeah.
Difference between the 2nd seeded team and the 12th seeded team is like 3 games. The Red Sox could absolutely make the playoffs this year. Absolutely.
Look, you get Vasquez.
How many wins do they need to make the playoffs, do you think? 85?
Probably 85, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, probably maybe closer to 90.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would have to bet against that. I don't see them winning 90 games with this crew. I mean, unless Sale makes a remarkable comeback and Eovaldi makes a remarkable comeback, I won't be shocked if both of those guys are on the disabled list in the first month.
Look, you got Devers at 3rd, Xander at short, Vasquez at catcher, and Verdugo in center field. That's 4, and Martinez your DH. Those are 5 really good players on your team. And name how many teams have 5 top quality guys like that.
It's the pitching, though. I mean, is the pitching going to hold up?
No, I'm saying they're obviously trying to, reinforce a horrid pitching staff. But there's certain moves you never know. They could compete. I'm not completely selling the Red Sox short.
No, it could be a fun team. I'd like to see him pick up a quality second baseman instead of all these.
I think they've got. By the way, hang on a second. They're only making the playoffs if they make some more moves.
Yeah,
I think they're only making the playoffs if they get another star pitcher.
As presently constituted, I don't think there's any way.
I'm totally with you, Timmy. I'm 100% with you. Right now, I wouldn't bet I'm going to make in the playoffs, but a couple moves, and Sale comes back in June. Eovaldi stays healthy. These are ifs, but who knows?
Remember, fellas, there's a lot of quality guys who should have gotten pretty good contracts who are going to be happy with non-roster invitees in spring training. You pick up a couple of diamonds in the rough, which is quite possible, and fill the team up. You could have a good team. I mean,
the biggest person I'm hoping to really see is Eovaldi. I think I was a big fan of his, and I think he's a very good pitcher. I'm hoping he regains his form that we saw at one point.
Well, he was their best pitcher last year, right, Russ?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he pitched the whole season. I think I didn't watch it, but from what I'm told, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's legit, and I have high hopes for him.
And Tanner Houck, Joe, good young prospect who showed a lot when he was up here.
He certainly did, but let's see, this season should play out a lot differently. You're going to go back to the 162 grind. And I think maybe by a certain point in the season, they might start filling up the ballparks again. Not filling them, but plenty of fans in there.
And yeah, let's see what one Alex Cheating Heart Cora comes up with, and sees what kind of. I'm gonna have a new nickname for that asshole every week, and it's all gonna be negative, unless we win the World Series. Then he's
Pete Rose can't get on the Hall of Fame ballot, but this guy can get a manager's job. It's really unbelievable.
I mean, that's the irony is. Kurt Schilling, Clemens, and Bonds, and guys like that can't make the Hall of Fame, but Alex Cora's got a cushy manager's job. Wait.
Everyone doesn't agree with me and you, Scotty, on how egregious that violation that he did was, but we think
He served his time.
It's very bad.
Oh, he served his time. You've got to be kidding. Oh my God. But
Tell that to the
Clemens and Bonds are.
Yeah, tell that to the cities that lost to them because of it.
He did his time.
He did his time. We don't have enough time. We're gonna do one show. Let's promise one show this winter on Alex Cora.
Oh God! Let me tell you something. God forbid if the Red Sox make the playoffs and have a better year than expected, Scotty Kerman is going to be screaming from the rafters about how great a manager.
It'll be worth the price of admission just to watch Scotty and Ashton this year.
I hate Alex Cora so much. I can't stand it.
But that isn't going to be the manager.
I can't. Oh my God!
You got to realize.
Timmy, we're gonna have to sneak up to that front row next to the on-deck circle so I can leave him a new one.
We're gonna have to hire some professional writers to give us some heckles.
Yeah, right. All right, we go to
special comedy writer right here.
Yeah.
Go to Timmy's Boston Bruins. Look, all of a sudden they're starting to show life. 6 goals against the Flyers. It's a team that may develop. Some young players like Frederick are looking good. All of a sudden, there's promise for the Bruins.
I saw something last night I never thought I'd see in overtime. 3-0 with the Malkin with the puck going in, and they didn't even get a shot off. I don't think I've ever seen that before, and I don't think I'll ever see it again. Malkin is one of the greatest players in the history of hockey.
Yeah, and
for that to happen was beyond belief.
I take some credit. I take some credit for the Bruins rebound because. I think I complained after like half the game in which they had scored 3 goals in like 4 games. I'm like, which team is the worst team in Boston? And everyone piled in and said the Bruins. And then they scored like 6 goals in 12 minutes. And
I know you're right.
I mean, they're obviously missing Pasternak. I mean, the guy's a goal machine. I mean, he's a gigantic part of this team. They're a solid team, and he puts them above solid.
Yeah, I don't feel like they miss Chara defensively at all.
There's more to just the ice presence that you miss. We'll see as we get into the season.
It's nice to have Miller back. He gives.
I think they improved more than they missed Chara, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'll take Miller over Chara. That's for sure right now. Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Miller's doing great.
Does Sweeney make a move like we're talking about Danny Ainge making a move at the deadline? Will Sweeney feel like he's one player away from possibly winning a cup, or are they further away from that?
I think we're one I could use a really, really, really good offensive defenseman, kind of like we had that we just gave away in our little guy there.
Timmy, you've mentioned like Hannafin. You've mentioned. I know that Yandel is apparently on the block.
Oh, I'd take Yandel in a heartbeat.
Well, he's annually in the trade rumor going to Boston. I mean, my God,
right.
It's unbelievable. He's always mentioned. I feel like we'll get him when he's on the back end.
He lives right up the street from me, so it wouldn't be a big commute for him.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the two guys you brought up were local guys. I have to say, every time the Penguins and the Bruins play, it's just a great game.
I tell you, that Pittsburgh team, they have a lot of talent. They're fun to watch operate.
And it's
But why are they doing so poorly, Tim?
I don't know. I don't know. They have a lot of talent. It's a funny league. It's a game. Hockey's a game of bounces a lot of times. Like that 3-on-0, they should have. They had. Rask made some great saves last night too. They had their chances. Let me tell you. Malkin hit the crossbar once. There was several times they could have put the puck in the net. I thought the Penguins carried the play actually.
All right, so boys, there's a chance, like Joe said, about in the next couple of months about being able to go back and watch games. And of course, the show is called the Grandstanders. If the Red Sox were playing tomorrow, would you guys go?
I would.
I like going to the ballpark. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, would you take the chance of being exposed in that kind of setting right now?
I would.
You would.
Yeah.
So you would.
I'd have to be convinced that I and 60% of the fans have gotten the vaccine at that point in time. And at that point,
I'm about to walk into a hockey rink full of people right now, so that tells you.
Good luck with that.
Cover up. All right. But yeah, I mean, look, it's very interesting. They're going to have people at the Super Bowl. We saw this weekend there were people in the stands in Green Bay and the Chiefs. I just feel really uncomfortable watching that more or less than being in the middle of it. I have to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of going to games and having someone sneeze and cough on me for the last 40 years. I'm sure not going to be happy about it with the pandemic. Right now.
What's funny? You go below the Mason-Dixon line, they don't give a crap. They're just moving on like it's not even happening.
Yeah, well, yeah, and how's that working out for them? Yeah, well, because they're morons to me. That's what they are. All right, well, that's our show for tonight. I want to thank everyone behind the scenes, of course, Corbin. Want to thank the fellas. Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.